Now, this is, as we've been discussing, a huge moment for the Labour government. And of course, their political opponents were watching their every move. Not just the Conservatives, but in many places these days, of course, the challenger is Nigel Farage's Reform UK. Reform are pushing for full nationalisation of the Scunthorpe plant, now pointing the finger at the government's environmental policies for putting the industry in peril.
Just when you thought British politics had hit peak drama, Nigel Farage storms into the BBC and tears up the rulebook on civility. Was it a debate? Was it a verbal demolition derby? One thing's for sure. Someone's public image just flatlined. Stay tuned, because this wasn't just political sparring, it was a 5-star roasting, served ice-cold with generous helpings of silence, tension, and ego casualties. You really don't want to miss this beautifully chaotic showdown.
Closed down. I thought maybe the Labour government would act. They didn't. And I went to Scunthorpe on Tuesday with my colleague Richard Tice, and when I realised there was literally 3 working days left to save primary steelmaking, it seemed to me that nationalisation was the right thing to do because Jingay clearly are a bad actor.
It's important to say to people that Port Talbot hasn't closed. There was a deal to keep that going. No, and in January 2023...
I'm sorry.
Let's stick on
the electric arc furnaces there will never be switched on.
Well, many people would disagree with that, but let's stick on what you're in principle backing for Scunthorpe being nationalised, because in January 2023, you go back then, and at that point you were saying, well, why should government bail it out? British steel should never have been sold to the Chinese in the first place.
That's the point.
Sunday morning in the UK. The kettle's boiling, the toast is barely toasted, and the BBC is holding on to relevance like it's the Titanic. In comes Nigel Farage, British politics' most immovable survivor. He's the guy who just won't go away, refuses to retire, and definitely won't pass up the chance to incinerate someone live on air. He bursts into the studio like he's just dug up the keys to the Brexit bus, and he's not dropping in to exchange pleasantries. He's here to start chaos.
People here we've spoken to this afternoon, though, seem to be coming to you because they're very angry. They're very angry about the state of the country. Do you think that's what it's about?
As they should be. As they should be. You know, the reopening of the debate around they called it the grooming gang scandal, but it's not, it's the mass rape scandal. I just think people ask themselves, what has happened to our country? How could this possibly have happened?
The interviewer, Laura Quensberg, is all set. She's got her notes, her beige blazer, and that classic, I've done my homework and I'm here to dismantle you with poise look. It lasts all of 12 seconds. The moment she starts speaking, it's obvious, this won't be a measured policy discussion. It's a verbal cage fight. Laura's armed with carefully prepared questions, but Farage? He's brought a flamethrower and a score to settle.
So the Prime Minister tonight reacting to what has happened over the course of the last 48 hours. His conclusion, very simple, it's all the far right. As if they're causing all of the problems. No, the far right are a reaction to fear, to discomfort, to unease that is out there shared by tens of millions of people. Let me be clear. I don't support street violence. I don't support thuggery in any way at all. But I'm worried, not just about the events in Southport, but about societal decline that is happening in our country. Law and order, folks, on our streets is breaking down. This Prime Minister hasn't got an earthly clue how to do.
She opens with what sounds like a perfectly reasonable question. Maybe a subtle jab, maybe a gentle hint that Farage is, what's the word, a threat to democracy. But before she can even get the sentence out, Farage unleashes a tirade so self-assured, it could run for Prime Minister on confidence alone. No, you see, he's not the problem.
This is a very sad story. It's the story of British steel manufacturing. We go back half a century to the early 1970s, we were producing about 30 million tonnes a year of primary steel. You know, the stuff we use in tanks and warships, construction, and very much else. Since then, the industry in terms of jobs has declined by over 90%. And we're now, in terms of primary steel, just got 2 blast furnaces left up in Scunthorpe, the ones in South Wales, of course, going through the process of closing down pretty much as we speak.
He's the only one, according to him, brave enough to tell the truth. The Conservatives? Spineless as soggy lettuce. Labour? More lost than a pigeon staring at its own reflection. And the BBC? Well, Farage claims they've been pushing establishment propaganda since the days of the Magna Carta. Laura tries to challenge him, but Farage swats it away with the ease of a man who's played this game so often he could do it half asleep, pint in hand, humming Rule Britannia. She makes another attempt.
The Conservative Party under Boris Johnson were pro-China. They effectively gave a strategic industry to a foreign government, and I was vigorously opposed to it. I wanted somebody else to buy British steel, and there were other bids. The Johnson government did have other bids, but they chose China. So I wanted somebody else to step in.
Well, other people actually have told us that Jingye was the only realistic bidder. But how much would your plan to nationalise it now, how much would that actually cost the taxpayer? Because I know you've put out there, you don't know.
We don't know because we can't trust Jingye's figures. They haven't had proper audited accounts since 2021.
Laura starts with stats, reports, maybe even a bar graph. Farage responds like a political wrecking ball. The British people have been ignored. Since 2016. In his world, every voter is a prophet, and he's the only one listening. Laura tries to regain control. Calm BBC voice, panic in the eyes, like trying to contain a tornado with a teacup. But Farage is off. He's tearing into Brussels, open borders, and taking back control, again. Somewhere, a Farage bobblehead nods in approval. Then, plot twist, he swerves. From BBC bashing straight to Labour bashing. Target acquired, Keir Starmer, the human embodiment of dry toast. The topic? British steel. According to Farage, the Johnson government handed a vital industry to China. He opposed it. Other bids existed. They picked China. But who knows? Farage says Starmer would have outsourced coal mining to the moon and told the miners to learn Python. He ridicules Starmer's industrial policy as a Pinterest board of vague aspirations. Port Talbot, once a steel titan, is now a political graveyard. Chinese investors are circling. The government's strategy is pure shrug emoji. Starmer? Silent. Or worse, buried in a speech filled with phrases like strategic realignment and green transition, political code 4, we're doing absolutely nothing, but it sounds fancy. Farage doesn't just critique, he dissects. Steel, sovereignty, pride, all negotiable under Starmer's watch, as long as the press release is polished and the optics clean. If he can't protect our steel, Farage roars, how the hell can he run a country? Starmer's reaction? A blank stare. Like a heavyweight boxer taking a knockout punch and calmly asking if anyone's seen his shoes. Farage keeps going. Full monologue mode now. He demands nationalization, slams Chinese company Jingye for dodgy accounting, says even trade unions tried to keep them out of the plant. Starmer? Still nothing. Either playing 4D chess or completely unaware he's just been politically vaporized. Spoiler, it's the latter. Farage unloads. Labour's sold out British workers for glossy policy brochures no one reads. Steel's gone. So is Labour's credibility. Starmer blinks into the void, maybe hoping a focus group can write his comeback. And Nigel's not done. He calls Starmer allergic to decisions. Put him in charge of a vending machine, he'd need 3 committee meetings before it spits out crisps. Laura tries to pivot, maybe climate change? Mistake. Now it's net zero, electric cars, and a green strategy with all the direction of a drunken pigeon. And of course, back to the BBC, Farage accuses them of acting less like a news outlet and more like a taxpayer-funded cult. Progressive groupthink, out of touch, serving narratives no one voted for. He ends with the steel scandal again. Labour only cares now because if it dies on their watch, Reform UK will blame them. And rightly so, says Farage. They could have acted. They didn't. He accuses Starmer of needing a public consultation to open a packet of crisps. Laura? She's clinging to the interview like it's a lifeboat. Farage, meanwhile, is off to the pub, probably composing his next tweet while ordering a pint of something aggressively British. Love him or loathe him, Farage knows exactly what he's doing. He's a political grenade in a world of foam bats. Try to hit him with facts, he blows up the conversation and walks off humming God Save the King. Starmer? Still processing that steel jab. Somewhere in Labour HQ there's a whiteboard titled How Not to Look Like a Wet Sock, and every answer's been mysteriously erased.